Welcome into another episode of Behind the Wheelhouse. You're on with J and J. I'm Jon. This is Justin. We have a special guest today who's innovating multiple parts of the logistics industry, specifically with shippers. His name is Alex Snook. He's CEO of On-Site. Welcome to the show, Alex. Great to have you.
Hey guys.
So, Alex, let's start from the beginning. You worked in a brokerage side of the industry. You've worked on as fleet owner and carrier side. So, with you running both and with the tech firm, where did all this come from? Where did you get the idea for your company?
So, unfortunately, it was an incident of strategic cargo theft.
Mm.
Uh, it was a day where I was just booking not a last minute, but down to the last couple hours where I needed a driver to make it on time. They looked great on paper, checked all the digital tools that I had access to me as a broker.
Hmm.
Even, did a few extra manual steps that tricks of the trade that I'd learned just to double check, and they looked great. Multiple inspections, same lane, no, it wasn't a long route or anything like that. Paid a decent rate on it too. It wasn't like it was super cheap or anything like that. Probably even a few $100 over spot market. Um, and they picked up the freight on a Friday afternoon. It was great. They were tracking. And come Monday morning, the tracking wasn't at the delivery, stopped making sense. We made a couple phone calls. That wasn't making sense either, as we had people tell us they didn't know who we were. And yeah, the carrier took off with our solar panels and even blackmailed us for the freight too. So at that moment, we realized, why don't we have something that we could give shippers that, give them some tools to actually help their brokers with situations like this. So
Yeah. How did your shipper respond when you had to call them and tell them your freight's missing and it's not going to deliver on time? I
oh
mean,
gosh, there
Justin and I
wasn't
have both been a part of
Yeah.
those conversations.
Yes, most definitely.
wasn't fun, I'll say that.
Yeah.
But honestly, they were, it was a good relationship with the customer. So I was honest. I was like, look, this carrier is blackmailing us. We don't know. We're getting to the bottom of it, but we're going to try to get this back for you or resolve this situation. And so we had a high level of trust. They knew that their product was susceptible to that. So I think there was a little bit of that. Of course, they weren't happy. But yeah, so it ended up being inventory loss for the customer,
Mhm.
months of wasted time, and just the biggest thing being just this black cloud sitting on all of our minds of, there's going to be a claim, there's going to be customers angry, their suppliers. So bad vibes all the way
And a lot of it's out of
everyone
your
involved.
control, right?
Yeah, that's what it felt like. And that was kind of the crappy feeling. I was like, it does feel like it's out of my control. And so that's why we, the name on site, spelled SIGHT, we realized there needs to be some level of ground floor, connectivity to brokers if they're using brokers. So yeah, that's where we got the vision from. So
I think that's awesome. I mean, a lot of good companies, great companies are founded and, started up because there's a need. And you
Mhm.
found the pain points that, Justin and I know we felt in our previous businesses in freight where we've had, loads where we don't know where they are, that, drivers are holding them hostage, or the driver that was supposed to pick up the freight didn't pick up the freight. And that's something that I would imagine a lot of shippers don't understand. So, how much of your job is educating these shippers and, letting them know that, hey, there is a way to solve this problem.
you used the word I was going to use, yeah, education. So it's been a little bit of a journey, right? As a startup, I'm the CEO, but I do have two co-founders. It's been a lot of learning ourselves, but then also realizing exactly what you talked about. You're having a conversation with a shipper or a 3PL who, hasn't had freight fraud happen yet, or they at least start to hear the talks of it. So then you're able to open those doors of, hey, what are you doing for vetting? Well, my broker takes care of it. Okay, what tools are they using? Or, hey, when that driver gets to your facility, what are you actually doing to make sure the information matches? Or what extra steps are you doing? And 90+% of the time, it's usually just, hey, does the pickup number match? And, it's out of sight, out of mind for them. And I don't blame them. It's just kind of it's really just the culture of how we've been booking freight. Obviously got really bad after COVID too.
Mhm.
So it's a problem that we're all scrambling to pick up the pieces, and the numbers are getting worse each year. Cargo theft keeps going up, and it seems like there's more people entering the marketplace trying to solve the problem. But we just realized, I think, the digital is only going to go so far as these criminals and fraudsters they're planted here. They've got their networks, they've got their systems, and we need to take the fight to them. And so I think the best way to do that is with shippers at the front door.
Well, we talk about it a lot here on our podcast about the criminal aspects of trucking. Uh, they're smart. These individuals and groups that hunt down, taking over people's DOT numbers or putting 4 or 5 stickers on the side of the truck to be 4 or 5 companies. They're getting smarter all the time, and trucking as an industry does not ever keep up with what's going on. They're always lacking, and to see something that you're trying to do to help is what we need, basically in the industry, because we've got to figure out a way to fight it. The government, a lot of times, in my opinion, out of sight, out of mind. It's not a major issue to them, which I totally get. I do think the new administration has started putting more emphasis on trucking because trucking is so vital. But before we get into more about your company, I'm a huge family entrepreneur. I'm a fifth generation entrepreneur. So with your found success and your business ownerships and now getting into technology, what do you think contributed to that the most for your success? Give a little insight on that if you would.
Obviously, you got to find some type of niche. And I think, let's all be honest, a little bit of luck, at least to get you going. So
Hmm.
there's going to be some percentage of, no matter how hard you work, there's going to be some ounce of you got connected with this right person, or you found this industry, or you found this. But to chalk it up, other than a little bit of luck, a little bit of right place, right time, also leaning into people that I saw were already successful in different industries, I was like, wait, forget what they do. I like their lifestyle, like the amount of time they spend with their family, how intentional they are, obviously the money they're making. What
Right.
can I go find and do? And this sort of the luck part. I started out at a big box brokerage at a young age, at like 21, 22. And I realized after working there for a year or two, I'm like, wait, freight is that, like, you have to move everything that you use in our lives had to get here somehow. So I'm like, this is going to be an industry that's around for a long time. So that's kind of step one. Like, and it was an industry that I liked. So it's always solving problems. So that, I think, is a big chunk of it, because obviously you can work really, really hard at something. But if you're an entrepreneur at heart, if your ceiling is capped, then maybe you need to go find a different industry. Not saying that applies to freight and logistics, because I think there's so much room for growth. But if that's you as an entrepreneur, you got to find something that you like. So I think I saw that. I saw the need for industry. I'm like, this is something if I sink my teeth in, and I didn't know what it was going to look like. So I just kept pressing forward, trying to always find a good business book, that can become cliche. But I really think listening to good audio podcasts, just general success podcasts, or watching a TED talk, it's okay to be a little bit cheesy and dream again, or just find some type of inspiration that won't keep you going forever. Obviously, the grunt work is gonna have to come.
Right.
But if I'm chalking up to anything, it's definitely leaning into people and seeing, like, okay, I like the end result of what I'm seeing. Like, forget the path for just a second. If I don't like the end result of what I can physically see, then there's no point of chasing that path. So I would chalk it up to a little bit of luck at the beginning, finding the right industry, and then really leaning into mentorship, and listen to it, a good audio
Hmm.
podcast success from time to time. Heck, maybe you guys can fall in that category, and then also
Maybe we
just a
could.
good book
Let's
once
yeah,
in a while.
let's dive into that just a little bit deeper. Like you said, you got two co-founders with you. How important is it, for someone tuning in, thinking about starting their own company? For me, it's I got to surround myself with good people when I've been in
Yeah.
business. Like, I surround myself with people like Justin. How important is it for you to surround yourself with good people when you're starting a company and realize that you don't need to do this alone? And a lot of people have some of it's about
Hmm.
pride, some of it's just about being scared and not being out there networking and not simply asking, like, hey, do you want to just go and do this with me? Something that simple, like, let's do this together. And, finding that person that's got the same kind of viewpoints and got the same kind of, dreams. And, how important is that? Because I'm sure that you and your partners push each other every day. And like, there's going to be bad days. And like, for me, I work closely with Justin on some different projects. And, if I'm having a bad day, I know I rely on him to push me up. I know if he gets negative, I need to push him up,
That's
so
right. Yep.
how important
You
is
do a
that?
good job at that too, by the way. So
Yeah, gosh, yeah, the most important, like I said, fighting freight fraud, solving the problems in the logistics industry. Those are fun because, like I said, it's still the work. But if you don't genuinely enjoy the time and people you're around, then eventually you will burn out and you'll want to do something different. And finding Eric and Hunter are their names. We had other co-founders, but those people just didn't fit. And when you find like, oh, wait, when I'm like, hey, can you guys go do X, Y, and Z? I'm going to go over here. Like, it's just a natural flow and fit. So that's kind of more of the how and why, but realistically, it is the most important because you already have enough problems trying to do whatever you're trying to do. Our case, obviously, fight freight fraud and provide a valuable tool for shippers. That's a big enough task alone. We want to either succeed or fail because our idea works in the marketplace or it doesn't. Finding that person that you're like, if you're going to start a business or have a co-founder, it just will feel natural. You'll have disagreements, like that's good. Good friction that should really lead to better communication. But if you just dread or hate being around this person every day, they're probably not the right business partner, and you'll ultimately lose from it yourself because you'll get burnt out. So, but yeah, I've got two of the best co-founders that I think of could found, and we have years of relationship, and we're definitely excited for the future. So.
for the people that I know you're a kind of a new startup and you're getting your feet wet and still learning the things you need to do, kind of explain, what the process is, what the shippers will do, and then how it benefits basically everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, our product exists, what we're calling a verified driver check-in. So that'll exist in most formats, a physical device that drivers will interact with when they get to a shipper's location, whether that's a shipping yard or an actual warehouse. And so right now we only sell to shippers, but if we're talking, down the road and what we're going to build, we're going to build an ecosystem and environment that benefits the brokers. They can stop things like double brokering, extra visibility for their shipper, because the shippers are already trusting their broker to book the freight and book the carriers and give them rates. This is now just going to be an extra leverage piece because brokers are always talking about freight fraud. This is going to be another angle once we build that portal for the brokers. For the carriers, they're going to be able to protect their identity. And actually, long term, speaking as a former trucking company owner, knowing that trucks should definitely be making more out there, this is hopefully going to assist that as well. If we get less bad actors, right, showing up at facilities, or less bad actors in the pool and more good actors, that's going to help them. So right now it exists as a driver check-in system at the physical shipper, and it actually verifies and authenticates the carrier's credentials. And then, so that's the prevention side. We're still working on other features and deeper levels of authentication with particular government organizations. And then on the business efficiency side, once the driver successfully gets checked in, the shipper will have some tools like a detention timer tracker and different KPIs that we're building out for their actual team.
There are other platforms out there, like Carrier 411, Highway. What really sets OnSite apart? I know you've mentioned the shippers, but what really sets you apart from these other larger players? And is it something where maybe you may consider collaborating with these guys, or do they, are they a competitor, and for what reasons would they be a competitor?
I think anyone trying to fight freight fraud could be both. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but at the end of the day, fighting freight fraud is just such a big umbrella. And we know these actors are smart, right? They're always trying to stay one step ahead of what we're all talking about. So it's like whack-a-mole. So I would say, and specifically the companies you mentioned, I've used them, love them because they all find their piece in this. I think if we're really narrowing it down to, and again, I say this humbly because again, we're just a small company. These companies have had success and have track records of that. We hope to provide an element of that physical interaction with our specific situation where we had a full truckload of solar panels stolen. The biggest piece of that component was that I'm in Kansas City and my shipping company, or where the shipping location where the warehouse was, in California. So I
Right.
think the biggest component to this is the physical, tangible connection where we can say, who is this truck? Not just who you booked on the load, not who you told your shipper's coming, not even all the pre-vetting, like, hey, I talked to the driver. He sounds like a good guy. He sent me a picture of his truck. Like, those are all great and should always be in the arsenal of fighting this. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, the biggest, factor is who actually showed up to pick up the freight in real time, and how do we deeply authenticate who they say they are, and should this carrier be hauling your freight. So that physical component and those authentication factors that we're continuously trying to improve, I think, is the biggest separator, because we're getting down to the source of it at
Mhm.
the shipper's front door. So
Okay.
So walk us through that just a little bit. So are these drivers signing something in? Are they scanning their picture? Then it verifies who they are, the company they are, to matching the DOT. So you know you're getting the correct driver, then you're getting the correct carrier that's supposed to be picking it up, because that's where it gets really tough, in my opinion. As you said, if you're in Kansas City and you're doing a load in California, you're just on the phone with them. You're verifying just that little bit of information of what's your DOT number, what's your name. You might get a CDL picture from them, and that's really it. So, can you walk through, as as a carrier and as a driver, what steps would be able that you would able them to do to help fight all that?
yeah, right now it exists where the only work that the driver will do is just once he physically shows up. Now in the future we'll build where there's like a portal online that you can do in advance so that
Mhm.
the work that you do prior to booking the load or booking the load will match the day of pickup when you're physically there, and we'll match those two. Right now, the driver will be prompted to take a biometric scan, so a selfie basically, through a
Mhm.
physical iPad, and then he'll have to match that with his driver's license. And that's connected if anyone's done their taxes online, which hopefully everyone has. It's the same system that the
Right.
IRS uses. It also has some authentication measures to attach that the trucking company that you claim to haul for is indeed the correct, and it keeps a digital record of that. One thing for shippers probably are out there, they might even be taking manual pictures or doing scans of people's driver's license. I'm not going to claim to be an expert, just some stuff that I'm learning, but there might be PII, some liability stuff where if shippers are holding on to information, our platform would release them of that liability because it's held on a different server, rather than the shipper being in sole possession of some of these personal documents from a driver standpoint. So at the end of the day, it's to protect that carrier's identity, but they won't be doing much. They'll be entering, like I said, take a picture, scan their front and back, a driver's license, enter in a pickup number, and then where their destination is. And for the most part, that is hopefully the most work that a driver will ever have to do with our platform, because we're already looking at getting a way more touch-free interaction to
Mhm.
hopefully, a couple of scans of something, and we're working on how we're going to implement that. But we want it to be as frictionless and secure for the driver. And obviously, we want shippers, they are the ones moving the freight, right? That agreement between that carrier, you're hauling their freight. In our opinion, the shipper kind of controls the SOP of who they allow to haul their freight. So it should be a win-win for everyone across the board. And that's what we're trying to create.
Why do you think that it is that I've been in this industry a long time, and it seems like we wait for problems to
Mhm.
occur, and then we then work towards a resolution that happens, 5 to 10 years down the road. Why do you think this industry is so far behind on the technology side? I mean, kudos to you for creating and
Mhm.
recognizing a need, at the shipper. And I think there's a lot of solutions that can be done that aren't being done. Why is this industry so far behind, on the technology side of things?
Gosh, well, I'll say COVID didn't help. I would say that probably set us back.
Yeah.
So any
Yeah,
progress that we were making, that definitely could have
I
set us
feel
back.
like trucking maybe takes a back seat to a lot of other industry. I mean, like just
I agree.
unless you've been involved in trucking, people just don't really think of it. And it's really, I mean, it's how we get everything, and nobody thinks of it. Well, drivers haven't seen a raise in or ever.
Nope.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy sad if you compare numbers, that drivers were making back in like the 80s. It's almost like they were making more. I know it's a smaller number, but if once you account for inflation and
When I got into this on the driver side, and and got some additional counts, and fuel was through the roof. This was probably 2007, 2008.
oh,
Fuel
okay.
was through the roof. Rates were still $1.90 a mile, and I was getting probably 48 to 50% fuel surcharge. So drivers were making pretty good money. They have definitely not seen an increase in pay since then.
Mm.
Gosh, no. I mean, the numbers support that, along with everyone, the drivers that I talked to today. I will say back to your question on, I think the delay specifically for transportation is that people get so much into it's such a fast industry. I mean, if you think about it, products got to get to point A to point B because you need it, right? Like you look around, everything had to get moved here. One point or another, it's on a truck. So it's almost like fraud was kind of like, well, we'll just keep putting up with it, kind of limping. But then now it's just become such an issue. COVID, the lax tools at warehouse, people just get used to what they're doing. Brokers shield their shippers from all the pain that really would exist if shippers actually able to feel the full pain of freight fraud, which they're feeling it more now. So I would say a combination of several factors, like you said. And if you're a driver, at the end of the day, if that's your lifestyle, if that's your career, you just keep moving, right? You just keep going, well, crap, I would like this to fix. But what we've realized too is that we have to get on the ground floor with shippers because I think once we start there, the benefits, the overflow of everyone, it'll fall to the carriers and brokers, but we've got to get there at the source. And it's going to take follow through and, standard operating procedures, giving shippers a playbook. Because when you just say, hey, let's solve freight fraud, we can all sit around and sing Kumbaya and do a podcast or talk about it with our other freight broker friends. But really, at the end of the day, if people don't start making real partnerships, then it will just keep happening and we'll keep talking about the same problem, but it'll just look different. So um
Well, it keeps
it's
evolving, right? I mean, like with
yeah,
Right.
AI and everything, and now we're talking about autonomous trucks. I mean, what if the wrong truck shows up to the dock? I mean,
yeah. Then that's the thing too of the future. Like, let's say eventually, because I don't think like a driver, like let's say we were all autonomous trucks one day, I still think that driver is just going to move. Like if I was an owner op, I would just go from dispatching the truck myself, right? So my seat just might move a little bit, but I'm still going to have to like be connected to that truck. And so with our platform too, is that it's not just the driver, right? It's the truck, it's insurance, it's the carrier organization itself. So even
yeah.
if that does happen too, we're ready to pivot if it's outside of a driver. But yeah, there's so many different things that could affect fraud, and it'll probably have a different face in 5 years, which is always why we need to stay on our toes and be not necessarily say, hey, this one product, which again, yes, we believe ours can help, but there's so many players out there that are going to fit the right niche and be collaborators that it's more of a mentality and focus. Like the bad guys are here.
Mhm.
Now it's just a matter of you need to move forward, make your money, keep being efficient because at the end of the day, you still have a business to run. But it's just such a loud noise now. You have to implement for it. You have to make a game plan for it. So there's lots of different ways it'll keep evolving for sure.
Most definite. Before we move on to the next segment and get ready to close up here, let our listeners know how to get in touch with you, your website, all of that. So in case there's a customer or carrier or somebody out there that wants to learn a little bit more, they know how to get a hold of you.
Yeah, appreciate that, Justin. So you can find me. I'm on LinkedIn, Alex Snook, AlexSnook. My email is Alex at verify on site. And of course, that's spelled ONSIGHT. So alex@verifyonsite.com. Reach out to me. Email, phone's fine too. My cell's 913-406-8917. Don't mind people blowing me up. Text me. I'm on my phone all the time anyways. Doesn't bother me. But yeah, if you're a driver or a broker, or obviously if you're in the logistics supply chain, we're just looking for people that want to have prevention a part of their business model and also efficiency too. So obviously we know freight fraud's a big problem, but we don't just have that a part of our arsenal. We want to help you obviously cost avoidance, cost savings, but also maybe even have you be, offset those charges and maybe even be profitable with our platform too. So
Also, I got a question for you. So, what was the Kansas City Cowboys? What was that score?
yikes. All I got to say is we got 5 games and we got to win them all.
Got to win them all. That's right.
Chiefs fan here. So yeah,
Luckily,
it's going to be rough.
yeah, Fox. Luckily, we're going to win we hopefully will win the division relatively easy.
Yeah, NFC South shouldn't be. Oh, you never know. The Panthers just beat the Rams, so who knows?
That's right.
That's true. Yeah.
That's
You
it.
you got a lot of snow there, don't you, right now?
Yeah, today just I guess they were like, hey, December sounds like a great day for 8, 9 inches of snow. So yeah, not leaving my house today really. So
Yeah, that's great. You can keep that. I know I'm in West Tennessee. We're right on the edge of where I live, so I'm hoping it stays a county or two north. I guess John, he never gets to experience that. He'll have to come up north where we are to,
yeah,
to
And no,
experience some snow.
I left that for a reason. I mean, Kentucky, we dealt with mainly freezing
Yeah.
rain and ice.
Hmm.
So.
yeah. If I moved to Florida, I might not move either. So
Well, Alex, we really appreciate you joining us. Any message that you can give to young entrepreneurs that are trying to get where you are today? Any final thoughts?
oh gosh. Obviously anyone, even if you're not a direct potential customer of ours, we'd still love to hear from you. Because obviously we are thinking about collaborations with brokerages, with truck drivers that might have connections to shippers to not only benefit our initial customers, but also you guys in the future, because it'll be a full ecosystem. But as far as the entrepreneurial piece, it's okay and it should be normal if you're building a business to feel like a failure one day
Yeah,
and then to feel like you have it all together the next day. Like don't get too high, don't get too high on your own supply and thinking that you're the best thing ever, but also
good advice.
you're doing
That's right.
something like you're moving your feet. And trust me, there's days where I'm just like, this is the dumbest thing ever. Like freight fraud hasn't been solved. Like what am I doing? I'm just a random person in a country of millions but I'm like, no, I had a problem,
Hmm.
saw a need, and then we're just
I'm trying to
following
solve it.
through. We're not big shots or anything. We're just like, oh, we've been in the industry. We're willing to do the work. We're willing to connect with the right people. And I think if you just focus on solving problems for people,
Right.
then you don't need to
Hmm.
worry too much
Finding their
about.
pain points, right? I mean,
Yeah.
That's right.
and it's consistency, it's persistence. I always say, fail fast. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to take risks. And
And failing equals learning. So if it
That's
exactly,
right.
sucks and you do terrible, then guess
you
what? You
got to
just
be
saved
willing to
yourself time.
change. You got
Yeah.
to be willing to change. You got to be willing to adapt. And that's where a lot of businesses, once they fail, they're too hard headed to
Mhm.
make the necessary changes. And so many times, I see people, friends of mine that have tried businesses and they quit just before they're about ready to gain success. And
Yeah.
you got to keep moving, like you just said. You got to keep moving.
Yeah, if you have the real tick, like if you really know you're an entrepreneur at heart, like when you go, hey, after my failed business, if you had one, you're like, can I go see myself working another W-2 job? If the answer is like, heck no,
Heck no.
okay, no, you're an entrepreneur. But at
That's
the
right.
same time, just pay attention to your quality of life. Again, burn the candle at both ends at times, but then also have times where you reflect and reset. But if
Yeah.
you know you're an
Yep.
entrepreneur, you know you want to grind, just have some balance. It's not going to look like everyone's balance,
Right.
right? At the end of the
Most
day,
definite.
but just do that because I'll tell you what, like the smallest reset can recharge you and refuel you because that's just what I've seen. I'm like, I gotta go, I gotta start up, I gotta get this done. And then I'm like, you take just a different perspective or a day off, and then boom, you're re-energized. So
I think you are building something impressive, and your perspective is valuable for anyone who's trying to build something
for sure.
in any business, but especially in trucking and logistics. I think it's needed. I think
Most definitely.
like we discussed, we're so far behind, especially when it comes to technology in all, sectors of the freight world.
Yeah,
So it's really, kudos to you for finding this need, finding this pain point, and taking it head on.
appreciate that. Yeah, it was awesome joining you guys, and we still have a lot of work left to do, but we're looking forward to that work and everything that comes with it. So,
We want to take a moment and thank our sponsors that make this show possible for you guys. First, I want to thank and talk about Gray Cross. It's our nonprofit partnership program. It's a 501c3. It partners with families who have lost loved ones or has had major injuries from traffic accidents. Of course, we do, with major trucking, but we also do it with car auto fatalities and injuries. So, anybody that wants to look more into it or would love to donate, please go check out graycross.org.
Do whatever you can, donate today, graycross.org. We also want to thank Ready App. This show is powered by Ready App, our driver and onboarding and processing platform, helping carriers move through their hiring workflow faster. If your fleet needs structure, if you're looking to onboard drivers more efficiently, and enhance document management, check out ready-app.com, ready-app.com.
All right. Well, thanks again for being on today with us, Alex. Thanks to everyone listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, check out the links in the show for On-Site, Gray Cross, and Ready Out. And for Jon and myself, we'll see you next time on Behind the Wheelhouse.